So with our lovely Miss S, I put on her leash. We're going to practice. We did have a little potty break, so she did a great job going to the restroom again. So I do find that obviously coming to the training center and working with me versus her family, there can be some novelty, and in there could be a little bit of anxiety. So obviously, like I've mentioned in the past, your babes may need to use the restroom a little bit more sometimes as well when they're feeling a little overwhelmed. So definitely making sure that throughout your training, if your babes are feeling a little bit overwhelmed, either in the home with new company or whatever it might be, make sure that you're also assessing their needs. So going to the restroom, getting some energy out in a constructive manner. So I know we were discussing the flirt pole play. A lot of times, behavioral troubles actually stem from a need that's being unmet. So I'm not saying that anybody is doing the wrong thing or no one's in trouble, so don't worry. But sometimes, depending on your dog's breed, their energy level, their comfort range, every dog, though, enjoys their typical needs, which would be, digging, running, chasing, biting, chewing. So there's definitely moments where if those outlets are unmet, your babe may find the inappropriate items to hone in on. So definitely making sure that while you're practicing, you're also making sure that mentally and physically those venues have been used. It's another great way to make sure that it's not always only physical activity that you're doing with your dog or only training the brain or the mental aspect of things too. So we want to have a sort of nice, well-rounded dog where they're comfortable doing dog things, but then also practice skills that are going to keep them safe and comfortable in our weird human world and environment in which they live in now. So right now we're just warming up with a little bit of this loose leash walking, but on gear. So you'll see that I tend to hold my leash on the opposite side. So the side in which my dog is on, be it left or right, is where I would normally have my snacks. Obviously with some extra saliva, they do slip out sometimes. So there we go. She got a freebie on the floor. So when we were working earlier, we were practicing a little bit with those front positions and bring her into the front of your body. Remember, you can also practice this on gear as well, because if on gear, it always equals we're going somewhere or we're going to go do something or go outdoors, you may find that your gear tends to equal more excitement. And then that can be a little bit hard, because if, let's say, your babe starts to get really jazzed and they're jumping and mouthing you, and then you clip on their gear, they might think that by mistake, jumping and mouthing is what also got them onto the leash, which brings them to those fun places. So I would make sure that equipment doesn't have a positive or negative association in a very big way. It should be just kind of nonchalant. It can be a little easy beaver, like woohoo, super excited, but we really don't want them jostling you or bombarding you, or maybe getting in the habit when we feel really jazzed. That might be what they do in other situations. So remember, what they're able to rehearse in one little bubble, they might transfer to other environments or other setups. So with my little lady, we're doing a really nice job with some of this lovely practice. Another one I'd recommend is the U-turn. So U-turn, you would then feed throughout sometimes the turning and pivoting and moving away from something. If, again, any of these skills start to always equal paired with the thing they're having a hard time with, your babe is going to start to anticipate every time we do a U-turn, here come the stranger danger situation, or here came that new novel dog, or something that they found challenging. Nice check-ins, madam. That was very nice. So let's say we're walking and we're going to do a U-turn. I tend to help them by following the lure and feed for that lovely change in direction. So U-turns can be a great way to get your puppy comfortable going from one direction to another. So that way you can start to, again, ready, we'll do a little U-turn and we'll feed. So some folks can call this turn, again, U-turn, whatever you'd prefer. You, again, just want to start capturing moments where they're doing a great job moving around the environment with you. So if this is easier inside your house, start there. You could then go and do this in your driveway. Nice. So I want her to start thinking there's value in changing up the direction in which we're moving. Nice. Ready, cuteness? She's like, guys, I swear I heard a distraction. So let's say, again, we lose her sometimes the environment. I'm just going to go back and work a simpler skill. So let's say maybe she wants to do a little find it. So we might even go again, work a little bit with that positive interrupter and feed for those lovely check-ins once more. But if, again, she gets a little distracted by hearing her other puppy neighbor every once in a while, maybe Mr. G is done napping and he wants to come out again, which is fine. We like to rotate through our lovely babes so they have chances to relax. and then practice coming out and working a few more skills. Nice. So they're not out the whole entire time because of course then they would get really fatigued and then their ability to function would go out the window. Nice. So we always make sure there's lots of good little breaks in between our practice. Good job, cuteness. So right here, she is hearing sometimes her Mr. G's saying, come on guys, it's my turn next. Ready? Nice. So all these lovely little moments where she's checking in and moving into my space, I'm just capturing and reinforcing these lovely skills. If your puppy is ever having a hard time, remember to try and lower the criteria. So even though we were going to work on U-turns, or you were working on front behaviors, or you were sort of working on name recognition, you may find maybe all of a sudden there's something way too overwhelming, sort of sight, sound, or smell. And in that situation, maybe find it's become your dance move in that scenario. But remember, if we're always looking for the big boy, big girl skill right when you want it, even though they haven't really rehearsed it as well, you may find that at certain points, it's too hard of a step. So rotating, going back and forth is perfectly fine. Ready? Nice job, Miss S. So we're just doing a couple little find it's because she's hearing some funny noises in the building. Yes. And I want her to sometimes think the novelty is paired with the bringing of the good, which could be the food. I know we've discussed how we can sometimes poison a skill or poison a cue, which means that if we instantly pair the scary with the food, your food may be the precursor to the bad happening. So you want to be very cautious that we're not, for example, using luring to lure them into the bathtub and then sort of just startle them by forcing them into a situation they're overwhelmed with. Because then the next time you go to lure your puppy, then your babe may start to think, gee, luring equals we're going to go into the tubby of doom. And that's obviously where we'd want to go ahead and start working with some cooperative care and build up that the tub doesn't have to be so scary. But if the next time you try to go lure your puppy to do something, they might be like, is this going to mean we're going to take a bad tub experience again? And then the luring may not work, or it might actually sort of overwhelm them. So we definitely want to make sure that how we're using our food is building comfort, confidence, and resilience, but is not instantly being paired with something that's way too challenging. And now the food can be the bringer of the bad or that skill. So if, let's say, I know we've discussed, having a downstay, let's say there's a scary noise, like a big truck driving by, and instead of having your dog lunge, which I understand we don't want them to get harmed, but telling your puppy they have to sit stationary as something hard and scary is driving by, may actually create that being stationary turns into a little bit of learned helplessness, where no matter what your babe is saying, they feel they can't escape, and they might start to shut down or associate being stationary with here comes another scary scenario. So we don't want to force either skill sets or food when it's way past their comfort range or understanding. Nice job, cuteness. So, but with these U-turns, I would recommend sometimes have the food at ready, get her attention, and then do that lovely turn. And you can feed throughout or towards the end. But I sometimes in the beginning when they're first learning it is make sure that you're, again, as you're about to do it, you might go turn, and then you can feed a couple little tidbits as they did that little U-turn. So, but U-turns can be very helpful for loose leash walking, for just easy peasy distractions or no distractions, and getting your babes to hone in on you. So ready? So again, we'll do a little bit more with this loose leash walking, feed for all the good. And then what we might go ahead and do is then from here, go into a little front. Nice, feed for that. And let's say she's in the front position, but I would really like her to be now on my side. You could also do a side or finish, or some people will call it back to heel if it's going back to the left side, but it can be whichever slogan you prefer. So I would get my puppy's attention, lure her, and then set her up again by my leg. I was just moving her leash out of the way. So that way she starts to get in the rhythm of when she's in front of me, she can also then go back to the side of me. Ready, cuteness? So I'm just gonna get her attention. We're gonna move forward a little bit. I'm gonna try it again in just a moment. So right there was just a little turn in direction. We're gonna again maybe do a little U-turn, feed for that. Now again, I'm gonna bring her into the front of my body, get that little sort of setup. She could go into a sitting or standing. I don't really care where she's at right now. Then to go back to the side position, I would lure her, try to loop her around, and then get her to set up right next to my leg. So that way you could continue on your merry way, doing a little bit more with that loose leash walking. Good job, cuteness. So, but for our lovely lady, she's really doing a great job for her second day. I would just make sure that in the home front, she's continuing to practice things you'd like her to master. Otherwise, we want to prevent by using management, so you can't rehearse the things we don't love. So this could be, for example, using your leash or your gear in and around the yard, in the home, using, for example, gates or corrals to keep her from certain bubbles in the house, or even at times covering up certain windows or certain zones where she might be doing like the window shopping, where it's not leading to comfort, but instead more anxiety and over arousal, and at times even that reactivity. But Little Miss S did a very good job for, again, just her second day. And then next week, we'll have the 3 beauties because Miss P was still recouping. Pepper has a UTI or a kidney infection, but she's on antibiotics and is doing much better. But she's going to be coming back on Tuesday then, and Tuesday, Thursday for the last week. Good job, Cuteness. But we'll give our Little Miss S a little breather. She did an awesome job, and we'll give her a little break.